Welcome to the UpLevel Podcast, Natalie.
Thanks so much, Christy. I'm so happy to be here.
I have been trying to reel you in, get you on here for some time. And
it's true.
It's so true. I'm so grateful that it's worked out and that you're here now. And part of that is the new formation you're in your own world and the mission, your personal mission that you've been stewarding and birthing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks. So my name is Natalie Kuhn. For all of you who we've yet to meet. And the new venture, the new mission, the new company that I started a couple of months ago is called Make the Sun. And Make the Sun is about practical tools to develop a kinder and compassionate sight, not just of yourself, but in order to see the transformation you wish to seek in the world. And it comes from, honestly, it's probably 2 decades of simmering and gestating, as I think many of our missions come from. You have to try out a bunch of things until you realize what really feels like right alignment, right? So, Christy, what we were saying before we hit record was, if I look back on the last 20 years post college, I can see in hindsight that everything was accumulating or culminating in ways that I wouldn't have been able to see, wouldn't have been able to articulate back then. But now it really is hindsight is 2020. In my 20s, I was a performer. I was a dancer for rock bands. I was always in service to another artist's vision, an extension of their vision. And then in my 30s, I was helping to build something called The Class, which is a cathartic and transformational workout. Yeah. And that was a big mission that I got behind in full, mind, body, spirit.
Yeah, you did.
And I left that this summer. And what's coming into shape and form now is Make the Sun. And to be honest, it's molten lava. It is in a state of evolution, forming and reforming. And I'm giving myself a lot of space and grace to experiment and find out what it wants to be.
And it's been beautiful to watch you make this transition and to live into these words you just shared. I really see you co-creating with what's happening in the world, what's happening within your community, what's being awakened or reignited within yourself. And so this is like, I feel like this is part of leading through crisis, chaos, and change. And how would you draw that link back to this topic that we're looking at today?
Yeah, I think crisis, chaos, and change. I think one of the through lines in all of that is that there tends to be a sense of urgency where we leap to solve, we leap to judge, we leap to band-aid whatever it is we think we see broken. And ultimately, that sense of urgency is going to, in the business world, that could create expensive problems. That could be a form of expensive risk taking. And in the individual and spiritual world, that's really going against the speed of spirit, if you want to call it that. One of my teachers, Melissa Carter, for anybody who's interested, she's just an amazing teacher. She's the head of global spiritual life at NYU. I remember she came in to lead a workshop at the class, and she introduced us to the term operating at the speed of trust. And that stuck with me ever since. And I think that try that on for size, because it's going to work no matter if you're in the context of your vocation, your business, your relationships, or your sense of self. Operating at the speed of trust.
And with folks who are in constructs, organizational constructs, where maybe someone else is determining the speed they can move at, what's some guidance you can offer individuals to more embody operating at the speed of trust?
Yeah. To drop into that frequency or downshift out of velocity and into that place, it's really a place of listening. And that listening is you can still get things done. You can still work toward deadlines. You don't become inactive. You don't become passive. You just soften your breath and deepen your breath to the extent where you can become larger than being pressed up against the windshield allows you to be. You know, when you're pressed up against the windshield, how can you see where you're going?
Yeah.
There's a way. Your vision is blurred. You're not actually looking at anything. You're too close. You have to step away from it. You have to get some distance, and you have to get some space. And the easiest way to do that is to find your breath again. And, you know, for some people who are listening, maybe that feels too esoteric, but it doesn't matter what contemplative tradition you come from. It doesn't matter what science you believe in or get behind. And I'm already doing it right now. I can feel my internal velocity changing. Taking a deeper breath changes your brain chemistry, alters your nervous system, shifts the velocity of your thinking and your reactivity, and brings you into a place where you can be more objective and connected to something deeper and more expansive. And when that's the ground from which you stand, then the quality of your decision making changes. The quality of your sight changes, and the quality of your insight changes.
Let's all take a deep breath right now, in and out. That wisdom in that context will never get old. I feel like we need to hear it multiple times in multiple different ways from multiple different sources to remember that breath is, it's a free tool available to us all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also it's invisible. You can be in a board meeting. You can be at a town hall or an all hands. You can be in a conflict with your partner and give yourself the gift of softening your belly and letting your navel go. And, something that I always do is I wiggle my toes in my shoes so that my mind remembers that there's something below my neck.
Yes.
And it's the body.
Yes.
And that my strategic mind is going to create a certain level and quality of solutions. Well, everybody on your podcast knows that the best ideas happen in the shower. They happen on a walk. They don't happen
in the boardroom
to excel.
Yeah, exactly. They really, really don't. It's that, that in between, in the coaching space, we always say that the coaching actually takes place in between the sessions, or in yoga, it's shavasana. It's when the body actually incorporates all of the good work that it did. That's when the downloads come in. And you have some language around rest before movement or go in before going out.
Yeah. And it's actually all related to that sense of, urgency is where we're going to get in trouble. One of the metaphors that I've shared before is imagine that you're spinning like a whirling dervish, right? Imagine that you're spinning. The last thing you do physically, mentally, emotionally, intuitively is take off sprinting. You don't. You plant your feet and you get still and you let your eyes and the world catch up to each other. And when your eyes and the world finally come back into right alignment, you choose your next step. So that could mean that the world is spinning. You're in a moment of global chaos That could mean that your business is spinning. You're experiencing the, volatility of our economy. That could mean that your home life is spinning. It doesn't matter, right? We all know what that spinning feels like viscerally.
Yeah.
But the impulse that we all have, that's also applauded and
encouraged.
Encouraged by the powers of social media, by the velocity of business, by 20 year over year, by these, unreachable and unattainable, insane goals that we have for ourselves. And the other thing that we do is, sorry, because I'm really
on
my soapbox here.
You get in there.
We seem to think that, like, oh, you know what's going to make this better? You know what's going to help me? I'm going to work harder. Or my favorite illusion that we live under is, if I just work faster, if I increase my velocity. No. These are the delusions that we fall prey to.
Yeah.
Because it is our cultural inheritance. It is our coping mechanisms, because we haven't learned another way. We haven't been able to tolerate the spin long enough to get still. And what we really need more than anything is to it's like stop, drop, and roll. Stop, breathe, pause. And so the two things that you just mentioned that we talked about very briefly is they're actually, two sides of the same coin. Go in before you go out. Go to the interiority before you make any move toward the external. Another way of saying that is pause before you take the next step. It's all, we're all in the same land here.
Beautiful. And,
it doesn't go against ourselves. It doesn't go against our spirit, because spirit is asking us to be in silence and to get quiet and to get underneath the hamster wheel of the thought, to get underneath and through the overactive emotion or the heightened emotion. But it's the discomfort with feeling the spin. It's the discomfort with feeling the chaos that gets us into trouble, because that's where our impulsivity and our reactivity comes from.
Yes.
So we have to learn to tolerate the chaos and the crisis and the pain that comes from that, first and foremost.
Amen, sister. We've been in a accelerated boot camp humanity for the past 4.5 years, and it's meant to continue at this pace of change and unprecedented events that aren't unprecedented anymore, because they happen like weekly. So I love what you're saying. It's like we are conditioning our nervous systems, our ability to dance with the chaos, and maybe even start to transmute it. Like, oh, this isn't chaos. This is okay. I'm dancing. I'm on the dance floor here, and I'm going to navigate this with as much grace, as much wisdom, maybe some playfulness as possible. And that's like, I know you're a person who very much has deep practices that you've cultivated over time. So this is what I see in you, what I just described. I see you doing that in the world. So if we have someone listening who they have a longing to navigate the crisis, chaos, and change in that way, where do you point them? You've just given us like some great wisdom. Where else? Where do you start?
Y'all, what is the chaos in you?
Yes.
Because the world you are living in is a reflection of your inner world. And the collective world that we're experiencing right now is a reflection of our collective consciousness. So if we're going to step in, cut through, interrupt, we need to first get real. Get real with what is inhumane in me? What is chaotic in me? What is the crisis in me? And then I have to meet that well. What does meeting that well look like? It means slowing down long enough to figure out what it is you're actually seeing. For example, and this is all variations on the theme. Let's just say you are in a Corvette and you are driving down the highway at, 90 miles per hour. There is no way that you are seeing the landscape that you are on because it is blurred. You are moving so fast. Once you slow down to 35 miles per hour, you start to realize, oh, like, look, that's an orange grove that I'm driving by. Didn't even recognize it. Then you decide to pull over and you stop. Only then do you sense the scent of the orange grove. Now you've actually located yourself. You've located yourself in the grove. You're now in relationship to the landscape that you're in. That's exactly the same thing that's happening with the mind. Your mind is a Corvette. Sometimes it's a Buick, but your mind is this thing that's moving at 100 miles per hour. How can you possibly get a sense for where you're supposed to go and how you're supposed to go to get there?
Yeah.
If you don't have a relationship to your interiority and to what's happening for you, you have to slow down to 35 miles per hour. Oh, wow, I'm feeling anger. Oh, wow, I'm feeling grief.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, I'm feeling like I don't actually know how to manage the crisis or lead my team right now. Now I get still and I start to look around and details start to come through. That anger is really old. I've been here before. Wait a second. I've navigated through this in XYZ way before. It gave me ABC information. Let me glean from that experience. Let me get quiet enough to get under the anger and actually, if I'm hurting, I wonder if my team is too. If I don't know, I wonder if my team is too. Maybe I can articulate that so we can have a moment of unification before we take a step into, with everybody so disparate. No, we have to find the commonality and the common ground before we take the next step.
And it starts with the individual. What I hear you saying, like, will you be the leader that takes that pause, that takes that moment, even if it's while you're in motion, but to take a pause in a meeting? Everybody, let's take a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
And go from there. I mean, that too can shift the trajectory of the conversation, especially if we're stalled, stuck. There's an elephant in the room, and we're not able to articulate it.
Yeah. I also think we need to be comfortable looking at our deadlines. Mm-hmm. If we can look at our deadlines and say, why are we shoving ourselves toward this deadline? One, is it a self-imposed deadline that has flexibility? Can I be agile enough to shift it and change it for the sake of the quality of life of the actual product for everybody who's creating it? Mm-hmm. If it's not self-imposed and it's externally imposed and there's something that has to get done by a certain date, how can we look at our resources and use them more wisely, more strategically, more streamlined? Where can we cut the fat? Where can we say, you know what, reprioritize your team, reprioritize yourself, but you're not going to get there if you can't look at the details of the landscape that you're in. If you don't know you're in an orange grove, then you're making expensive mistakes.
Yes. This is so good, Natalie.
Because that disillusionment is either going to create you propelling yourself toward a direction you don't really want to go, or it's going to shove everything underground and compress reality. And then you're going to be creating a solution for the wrong problem. And this is business, but this is also how we live our lives. This is our most intimate relationships. This is leading teams. This is leading self. This is leading spirit. This is letting spirit lead.
We're a few days out from the US election. And everything you're speaking about feels so relevant for folks, no matter where people reside with the outcome. But this guidance of slowing down and noticing where you are and who is around you, having those, like, that sensitivity, and really taking a moment to pause before the next move.
What in you isn't met? Because what in you that isn't yet met is going to be in the driver's seat, whether you like it or not. And if that's your fear or your insecurity or, your pain or your anger, that's going to create an entirely different pathway forward than if it is your sense of stability, your sense of ground, your sense of center, love, compassion. That's a sliding doors moment with how you shape reality, create solutions, and move forward into your next evolution, whether it's yourself, your business, your relationships, whatever it is. So what's not met? Do you really know what the problem is that you're trying to solve? Have you asked better questions in order to find out? Is it an emotion? Is it a thought? Have you really done the work to slow down, take a look at the details, take a look at the landscape, take a look at your inner landscape? And if you can't meet it with love, don't take the next step. And this is not fluffy. If you can't meet it from a more open and expansive place, you're definitely not. You've lost all chance of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
You've lost all chance of creating something new that's going to spark the attention of not just your inner motivation and inspiration, but those of your team and those of your constituents. So if you can't take the next step with love, don't take the next step until you can. It's because if you don't, again, I'm repeating myself, but it bears repeating. If you don't meet what isn't met with love, it's either going to go underground or it's going to get weaponized. And either of those directions goes against our spirit. And it goes against our highest alignment. And it goes against our highest form of creativity. And we could take 5 seconds to close our eyes and know that we're seeing that all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of lashing out, let's meet that pain with love, with compassion, with silence, with breath, and let it transform.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
The strategic mind is only capable of creating a certain narrow pathway of solutions. The spirit is much more expansive, much more creative, much more transformative and nourishing than anything the strategic mind can with.
The amount of polarity that we've experienced and that just feels like it intensifies. What do you think is the higher purpose for that in this moment in time with humanity?
Yeah, we haven't learned our lesson. We are going to keep getting fed the same set of circumstances until we learn the lesson. That goes for us individually and it goes for us globally. Until we meet that which is inhumane in us, that which is othered in us, that which is exiled in us, we won't be able to recognize it outside of ourselves. If we can meet that which is inhumane and exiled and difficult and intolerable within us, and we learn the tool set of bringing compassion to meet it, of dialoguing with it, of asking it what it needs for it to dissolve, transform, and heal and be in a state of repair, then why would we be expected to recognize it when it happens outside of us? To notice it, to name it, to interrupt it, and to create repair.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just keep doing to others as we are doing to ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And that's the pain.
And I think there is a lot of unmet pain out there.
It's evidence that everything that we're seeing and experiencing.
Yes. It doesn't matter who you voted for. There's a lot of unmet pain, and that's going to continue to morph into behaviors of lashing out and othering and distrust and mistrust until we're able to discover a sense of tolerance for ourselves and love and compassion and expansiveness that then we can use to meet the circumstances of crisis, chaos, and challenge.
Oh, woof. So what do you say to the people manager or the colleague or the family member who most of us are navigating circles with different levels of consciousness to really grokking what you're saying and maybe having practices that are putting this into play? How do we navigate the different levels of consciousness and awareness to that this is why we keep reoccurring in this cycle?
You model it. You model it to the best of your ability to your highest level of consciousness. You model it, and it's your transmission that's going to affect change. And I think that when we feel that sense that we're getting pulled into the drama, and we know we are when we have to use heightened emotion as the it's almost like your blinker, your signal, your left and right blinkers going off in the car, asking you to pull over, change lanes.
Yeah.
Heightened emotion is information. It's not instruction. And when we're operating at that level of urgency, we think that we're getting some playbook that we need to immediately go and, hit the gas for. No, it's information. Get quiet, get slow, figure out what you're trying to, what is the heightened emotion trying to tell you, teach you, offer you. It only happens with quiet silence and stillness.
So be the model.
Model it.
Model it. And if you're listening to this conversation, chances are you're modeling these things in your world already. And or if you're curious about how to model this, there's so many different ways to practice developing one's self-awareness so that you can be aware of the heightened emotion and not act on it, but rather use it as feedback to stop, get still, get grounded before the next step.
Find a deeper breath. Wiggle your toes. Find the thing that's underneath your neck. Reconnect to your body. If you need to cancel plans that night, cancel plans. If you need some support in saying, I don't know, seek it. If you are feeling unstable or upset, name it and say, here's what I plan to do about that. I feel a little bit unstable. I feel a heightened emotion. So let me go take care of myself and give you an answer when I'm in a more grounded, centered state of being. Now you've just taught them something. Because instead of leading by reactivity, you're leading with a pause and you're articulating it. Go into the phone booth, go into the ladies' restroom, go into, whatever private space you have. Find your breath, shake your body, slow down, take a walk, make a cup of tea. A good cup of tea takes about 10, 12 minutes,
Yeah.
And then come back to it.
Yeah.
Fresh eyes, with your face peeled away from the windshield. And only then are you able to see the horizon. Yeah.
Natalie, you as a human, as a leader, like a lot of this wisdom, it feels like you came in with it. And then you've been like sowing the seeds as you've gone on your journey. What can you share with us about your origins in this lifetime? Like what's a little bit of insight you can give us about you?
I definitely did not come in with it. These are hard ones.
All right.
And I think that, I've worked with a lot of different personality types, and some have felt more aligned with the style that makes me want to lean in and learn. And some have been leadership styles that have created a lot of tension, pain, and hurt. And that's been information and good lessons for me as well. Everything has been a gift.
Yeah.
And I think in my 20s, being a performer, one of the things that I was taught is that all feedback is a gift, but all feedback doesn't need to be taken. So everything from my managers, from my directors, from my, my teammates has been a gift, real good information. And then it's up to me what I want to integrate. And then I think what's really important that isn't talked enough about is the real need to experiment.
Mm.
My old business partner, when I was co-CEO of the class, his name was Chris Sanborn. He introduced the idea of short iterative experimental cycles, so that you learn incrementally and cheaply, inexpensively, right? Whether that's your, the expense of your quality of life or the expense of, your P&L.
Yeah.
So you create little mousetraps to understand what it is you need to understand. And so that's really helped me in my life, whether it's personally or professionally, because it's given me a facility and an agility to try things. Because I think early on in my professional career, I felt like I had to have all the answers before I made that big leap that cost a lot of money. And then when I got better at failing, that's when I got clearer about who I want to be, how I want to show up, and ultimately how to move the mission forward in the right direction.
Wow. Experiment, fail brilliantly all over the place. Get back.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that he gave me, and I've mentioned this to some before, and I still use it today, is celebrate bad news. Because often what happens when we get bad news is, again, we either shove it underground because our level of shame is so high, or we lash out and we blame somebody else, which is the fastest way not to get a promotion, by the way.
Yeah. Yes.
But if you celebrate bad news, then, shame is a very expensive emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Throwing something underground creates just a hellfire of work.
Fire. Oh.
So celebrating bad news prevents it from going underground or lashing out. Celebrating it says, like, all right, what did we learn from this?
Yeah.
Great. Let's take those lessons. Let's throw it a party. I've mentioned this before, but I just love that Chris gave this to us. If you've got really bad, if you really tried something and it really didn't go well, like throw it a lunch, get everybody around the table and figure out what happened so that nobody feels ostracized. So everybody feels a sense of trust, so that there's a real sense of camaraderie and teammates and coming together, because more heads can often create a better solution. Not all the time, but, really allowing the hard feelings and the hard realities to have space and breath and life, so that we can turn toward them and meet them with clear eyes. And from there, make good decisions.
Dropping the mic. Everywhere you go.
Oh my gosh.
Just love it. So you've talked about Chris. Is there any other leaders, and in any context of your world, not, we define leader, you're a human, you're leading at UpLevel. Any other leaders that specifically over the past 4.5 years, you'd say that person has had such a positive impact on me? And and you don't need to go into the story, but like, what are the qualities that this person really embodied that inspired you to navigate the times we're living through and to make this big leap that you recently made?
Oh, I'm so happy for this question. I am committed to mentorship. I love to have mentors. I love to have people in my life who can show me my back, and mirror my eyes so that I can see what I can't see. And for the last couple of years, two women have really helped shape my thinking and shaped my sense of feeling and connection to spirit. And they've become good friends. One is Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams. She is the second Black woman to ever be ordained as a Zen Buddhist priest. And she's got wonderful tools for sitting still and navigating the storm, sitting still in the storm. And she also has wonderful tools at looking at the, dominant culture, the forces of dominant culture, with clear eyes, and taking a look at yourself and the lenses from which you see, and cleaning the windshield so that, you are facing yourself with more, honesty, and more compassion. And then the other woman that I mentioned already is Melissa Carter, the head of Global Spiritual Life at NYU. And she's become a very dear friend. And one of the things that I've so valued about her mentorship and our friendship is the way that she holds space. I think that the wellness industry has kind of bastardized that term. Mm-hmm. Holding space is now twisted up to mean give advice, to coach one through it, to, to cut somebody off, to interrupt. No. Holding space, my favorite definition of holding space, in which, Melissa really embodies this, is not needing anything to change. Creating an environment where there's no pressure for it to change. And in that holding of that space, the thing changes itself on its own. It changes in and of itself. And she does that by really holding a very wide sense of awareness in herself, where nobody is othered, nobody is wrong, but there are very good, strong, pointed questions asked that are self-reflective in nature, that create a listening from a different source point. Mm-hmm. One that is deeper and more connected and more aligned to who you really are instead of who you were taught to be.
May we have more leaders like that emerging. That is so required right now as we continue to navigate the times we're living through.
Yep.
Yeah.
Amen. Aho, ashe, amen.
Yeah. Yeah. What is something that's coming up for you and Make the Sun that's exciting you, that, you want to put out in the world so folks that are listening maybe can participate and join?
Yeah, there's two things that just have me lit up. One is a new event series that I'm creating. It's called Sunday Service.
Amazing.
And it is a Sunday morning event series. Yes, it's got music, it's got philosophy, it's got poetry, it's got togetherness, it's got community. And for me, traditional religious frameworks haven't really hit that sense of togetherness that I have been seeking. Mm-hmm. There are some that are really powerful and potent and that I derive a lot of meaning from, but I am seeking to create an experience of spirit and community that pulls together all of my favorite things in the world. And that's language that bypasses the strategic mind. That's music that gets us into our body. And that's practical practice that anybody can do just from sitting in a chair. So Sunday service is kicking off in LA for the first time at the end of November. And then I'm looking to bring it to other cities and ultimately a digital experience. Yes. And then the next thing that I'm super excited about is Make the Sun also has a workshop called Make the Mirror. And I've been bringing that to corporate teams, whether it be Google or Worldwide Technology or Accenture. And it's a way to create team bonding by getting closer to yourself. Mm-hmm. And by becoming closer to yourself and more honest with yourself, you actually show up as a team in a much more connected, aligned, and empowered way. Mm-hmm. So it's one of my favorite things to provide and offer.
And that's actually, they actually make mirrors. Like, is it
Yeah.
an actual tangible
Yeah.
physical component, but obviously it's a metaphor, a teaching.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a
That's
conversation about the
brilliant.
importance of self-perception. It starts with a conversation about why is it important that we see ourselves clearly? And then we go into a visual meditation where we explore how it is we do see each other and ourselves and how it is we need to. And then from there, we use that wisdom to use our hands and create this artful mirror in order to have a daily practice with ourselves that keeps us tethered to that sense of truth.
So creative, so powerful, so
Christy.
good. Yeah. Are you a manifestor generator? Do you know your human design?
I am a manifestor generator. I don't know much about that, but apparently I'm like a 3-6 or a 6-3, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I get, just get the vibes of all the,
You get
all the creations, and just, and then bringing like a deep meaning and a teaching component. It's so exciting. It's so exciting. I'm so excited to witness and champion you and cheer you on as Make the Sun continues to be birthed and morph, and you embody and live your mission. It's palpable. It's so inspiring to have watched your journey. So
thank you so much, Christy. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the opportunity to be in conversation with you. I think what you're doing, helping so many people up level, literally, and metaphorically and physiologically, up level their mission, their spirit, their way of showing up in the world is more of that, please. Double click.
Yeah. Double click. So with that, in this moment today, what is your prayer for humanity?
May we treat all that we have exiled in ourselves with the kind of love and compassion that brings us back into wholeness. And may that wholeness be mirrored outside of ourselves as we show up for all that has been exiled and sent away in our widest communities, so that it too can make its way back home into harmony and peace, interconnectedness, tolerance, and belonging.
May it be so. Thank you for this transmission. Thank you for your leadership during these times. We really appreciate you, Natalie.
Thank you so much, Christy.